for the ages. Steph Curry and the Warriors taking on the Kings in Sacramento in a Game 7. Steph's second quarter just getting started.
Yeah, he was warming up and getting it going early in this ball game. You could see the look in Steph's eye. It was game time. He was ready.
And he was looking in every which way. How does this go in?
Greeny, I saw this play and was like, well, it's just that kind of day. Look out, because there goes that man.
He had the finger rolls inside. He had the ridiculous shot making outside. Watch this sequence here. Off an offensive rebound off the missed slam putback. Look at Steph somehow in the lane amongst the trees. Gets it to go. Warriors opening up a 10-point lead after 3. Fourth quarter, they're up by 14, and it's more from Steph.
It's just, you could not get enough of Steph, right? And this is the iconic, legendary stuff that makes him who he is. I mean, just when he started chewing on that mouthpiece with disregard for everybody on the floor, you knew. Like, it was one of those days. And a signature third quarter for the Warriors as well.
It was, and Steph kept it going into the fourth. He was at 43 there. He was at 48 after this 3, and they had put it away in the final minutes. Steph Curry just looking to put the finishing pieces on a 50-piece, and he does. It's the first ever 50-point game in Game 7 history. Light the beam? I don't think so, says Steph. They did that plenty this year. It was a magnificent season for De'Aaron Fox and the Kings, but yesterday was all about Steph Curry. He averaged 33 points per game in the series. He's accomplished a lot in his career, but yesterday, in the history of the sport, he became the first player ever to go for 50 in a Game 7 of any playoff series. You see, he eclipses the record that had been held by Kevin Durant. It is no more. Steph stands alone.
There's still nerves and anxiousness and, anticipating a big night. But when we get out there, our experience took over and felt pretty comfortable from the jump. So it was a great experience.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
Well, we haven't found out so far. So McNutt and Timmy Legler, and Tim, I mean, there were days in your life when you were throwing in threes at ridiculous rates, but I'm not sure that we've ever, well, I know that we've never seen anything quite like Steph Curry before in the history of the game, and yesterday may genuinely have been the best day of his career.
Yeah, we keep finding new ways to add to his legacy, right? And just at a time at 35 years old, you think that this is a guy that probably is not going to have any more of those types of moments. He continues to do it. Here's what amazed me the most about yesterday, Greeny. A lot of players we talk about that in the moment will their team to win, refuse to let their team lose. And sometimes star players find themselves in that situation in the course of the game, and then they try to take over to make sure their team wins. It's a totally different level when you're already in that mindset when you get to the arena, because that's where Steph Curry was yesterday. You could see the look on his face entering the building. You could see him as the game started hunting shots at a level with a level of aggression that told you he was in a different place. 38 field goal attempts is all you need to know about where Steph Curry was, and talking about refusing to let your team lose a series. That is what he did. And, the array of shot making, we've seen it throughout his career, but I don't know that I've ever seen the full array in one game in Steph Curry's career the way that I did yesterday, between mid-range pull-ups, deep threes, off the dribble, off the catch, 3 ridiculous finger rolls, finishes with either hand, being ridden to the rim with a defender. I don't think he's ever put the full basket on display the way that he did yesterday.
I mean, Monica, I don't have adjectives. I mean, help me here. I don't know. I watched the game yesterday in awe myself, because look, for anyone who didn't watch it, that is absolutely a game into the third quarter, which is when Golden State took over. Klay Thompson couldn't throw the ball in the ocean yesterday if his life depended on it. They needed Steph to win that game for them, and he did it seemingly by himself from an offensive standpoint.
I mean, to Tim's point, obviously he was scoring at every level in terms of his repertoire, but I also think listening to those teams post-game, both Steve Kerr and Steph Curry, talking about understanding how Sacramento was playing them, right? Steph basically was looking forward to this small ball lineup because it afforded him the opportunity to find these angles, find these lanes, get these clean looks to the basket. I thought the spacing, Steve Kerr continued to talk about that for the Warriors, was paramount to what they were able to do yesterday. But Steph is just, I think, he's sort of savoring, right? Like, at this point in his career, the sustained greatness of the Warriors is something that you just cannot deny. But even at this level, it's almost like the game continues to slow down. Like when you're talking about that upper echelon of guys that are truly savants, Steph never looked sped up. He never looked hurried. He was able to get to every spot at will. It's just, man.
The stuff he did finishing at the rim yesterday, because we've actually almost gotten used to Steph making threes, step-back threes, stuff that you've never seen anyone in the history of the game do. The stuff he did finishing at the rim yesterday felt like almost a new wrinkle, even for him, and it was magnificent. I refuse, by the way, and I know it's not the sexiest part of it, I refuse to allow this conversation to go by without saying the name Kevon Looney. Kevon Looney yesterday, Tim Legler, was the second most important player on that team for Golden State. No way in the world they win that game if not for him on the boards.
Yeah, listen, he represents the only legitimate size that they play. Think about that. They're always at a disadvantage in terms of size on the court, no matter who they play. And Kevon Looney makes up for a lot of that. Not only is he just cleaning up every defensive rebound, the number of extra possessions that he will give you. Remember, he had a game earlier in this series with 9 offensive rebounds in a game in which there's no way they win without what Kevon Looney did on the glass in that one. So you're right. Steph Curry, obviously the show, but there are other little pieces that take place in the course of the game from a team perspective that allowed Golden State to take control of the game. And once they did, you could see the pressure mount for the Kings. The air in the building sort of left in a very difficult place to win on the road. Steph Curry and the Warriors and Looney took that away from the crowd. They just did not give them that opportunity.
And now we get LeBron versus Steph in round 2. Lakers at Golden State. It starts tomorrow. Give me the edge. Where do you give me the thumbnail, the early thumbnail on the series, Lakers and Warriors?
Well, I think it goes back to experience. And as much as I was team young blood after the first 2 games of this particular series, experience ultimately did stand tall. And when I look at the makeup of the 2 teams that we're going to have the privilege of watching go head to head, there is more experience on the Warriors side, and there's just more overall continuity. Steve Kerr said this yesterday, and it really stuck with me. And the same could be said of the Lakers in that these are not essentially the same teams that we saw over the course of the regular season. Gary Payton II, Andrew Wiggins coming back into the fold. You could see the Warriors getting better game by game outside of that Game 6 performance, right? And so they're starting to put it together in a way that was quite honestly reminiscent of what we saw last year in Boston. When I look at what the Lakers have to do, pressure remains in my mind on Anthony Davis. And how big can the role players around LeBron James be? Are we going to get a magnificent performance or 2 or 3 perhaps from LeBron James? Yes. But the counterpunch on the other side is just as capable of having an incredible performance.
We're going to really dive in from a preview standpoint a little later in this hour. But, Legs, how about that? The initial look. We'll get Jay Will in here, and we'll really dive into Lakers-Warriors. But the initial look, and in particular, Tim, the magnitude of this, just the significance at this age, this stage of their careers and lives, that we get LeBron and Steph one more time.
Yeah, I think you said it best when I don't think any of us thought we'd ever see this again. Certainly not with 2 teams that looked like, in the moment could potentially contend and maybe win the Western Conference. I think the winner of this series has a good chance to do that. I'm going to give the edge to Golden State, much like Monica said, and here's the main reason. You can't develop a game plan to double team Steph Curry. That's the biggest problem because of the way he moves without the ball. The number of mistakes you make when you start overloading to him without it leads to opportunities for other guys. If you want to trap him on ball screen, take it out of his hands, he's willing to move it and let the weak side play. So Steph Curry and his shooting in tight windows, it's just very difficult to come up with a scheme and say he's not going to beat us. As a result, Steph Curry, whether his numbers are the same or not, will have just as dramatic an impact. Much more difficult team for the Lakers to defend than what they saw in the first round, and that's why I give the edge to the Warriors.
All right, so both of you stay close by. We have much more on this series as we continue. Plus, we'll dive into what happened at the Garden yesterday, including an injury that could change absolutely everything.
So who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
3-pointer. Bang! Scoop layup is up. It's good. Puts it in. Oh, Steph Curry from way downtown. A 50-point Game 7. One of the greats of all time showed us once again what he's capable of doing as he chases his 5th ring.
I will say it again. I mean, Steph Curry just played as great a game as we've ever seen. He's the first ever 50-point performance in a Game 7 in the history of the sport. Of all the players to play in at least 5 Game 7s, and there were over 140 of those, Curry's average of 32.6 points per game is behind only LeBron James and Kevin Durant. I mean, he just continues to elevate from places that we had never seen before to places we weren't certain he could take it. Again, Legs and Monica with us, and we got Jay Willen over here from KJM. We tried to come up with adjectives this morning off the top of the show, Jay, and we can't do it. I mean, how do we describe what Steph Curry did yesterday?
Indescribable. I mean, that's your adjective, right?
Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. And, you know, I know after the performance, people say, well, you know, the conversation looming around, is he the greatest point guard to ever play? And what I say is, no, don't diminish his ability like that. He's not in the box. He's one of the greatest playmakers the game of basketball has ever seen. He's a playmaker. And the space he allows himself on the floor allows operating space for his other players. But the degree of difficulty of shots he has, Jalen Rose said it last night perfectly on NBA Countdown. He was talking about a Harlem Globetrotter in 2023. The shot making around the rim, George Gervin Ice, right? Iceman.
Yeah.
You have the three-point shooting, top 2 handles in the league. The game of basketball has never seen a playmaker like Stephen Curry.
Yeah, Legs, again, because we've almost gotten lulled to sleep by his ability to make threes like we've never seen before. Most of the great three-point shooters have been the great catch-and-shoot guys. Your Reggie Millers, your Ray Allens. We've already gotten used to Steph doing stuff there that we've never seen before. The finishing at the rim yesterday, Legs, almost felt like it was a new frontier. Like, even by his standards, I had never seen him that effective doing that stuff.
Yeah, look, he's sprinkled him in, obviously, many nights, right? But to do it the way that he did it all in one game, I don't think we've ever seen the full array the way that we saw yesterday. And that's saying a lot, because this is a guy that I think, for me, historically, if you go and you rank a guy, give him a score from 1 to 100 in the 3 areas of skill in the game, pass, dribble, shoot, Steph Curry is going to come out the highest, right? When you add those 3 up. This is the most skilled player in terms of the 3 offensive areas of the game that the league has ever seen in one body, and you saw all of it on display in a game they had to have to extend their season on the road. But you're right, these finger rolls that he was making, it started with the first one. When he put that first one in on a 3-point play, and the ball probably went 15 feet in the air with contact, with that kind of touch, with one hand on the basketball, you're just watching something that people can't relate to. And then he does it 2 more times later in the game. So you're right, Greeny. As great as he's been, we thought we'd seen it all. He actually gave us something yesterday, even by his standards, that we hadn't.
It's a thing of beauty. He's playing a game unlike any I've ever seen in the 50 years I've been watching the sport, and it is a beautiful thing to watch. That said, and he said it on the court with Lisa was doing the game, where he said the next matchup is a totally different animal, right? You're going from the highest scoring team in the NBA, Sacramento. They want to run up and down the floor with you, to a Laker team that, particularly, Monica, since these trades they made around the deadline, are now all of a sudden going to lock you down defensively. So how does everything change, in particular for Steph, as they go forward now into this matchup of LeBron versus Curry?
Well, I think in the last 2 victories that you saw for the Warriors, you saw them take advantage of the small ball lineup for the Sacramento Kings. Small ball, if the Lakers decide to go that way, means that AD maybe is your 5 or maybe Bron is your 5. So first of all, just the size component of this series is going to be very different. What I think every team in the league struggles to defend when it comes to the Warriors is their space and their pace, right? As much as we're talking about Steph finishing at the 3 different levels yesterday, there's the wrinkles in his change of speed, change of direction that are he's able to do that because of how much space that this particular team plays with. And so immediately, I think about guarding Steph. I think about Andrew Wiggins as he continues to get better in these playoff games. And then I think about Draymond Green's assignment in terms of probably bothering Anthony Davis to a degree, but also Kevon Looney, quite honestly, in terms of AD. So you can't, as much as we're talking about Steph, and Klay did not have a signature day shooting in Game 7, but Klay's still right there in terms of his ability to shoot the basketball and what we've seen over the course of the regular season. And so, Jared Vanderbilt, Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, like all of these role players that hang their hat on defense, well, congratulations, you are now privileged to guard one of the toughest offenses to guard in the league.
By the way,
it's not going to work.
It's the 6 versus
I don't know
the
how
7.
it's going to work.
It's not
Have I
gonna work.
mentioned that the Warriors are the home court advantage because they're the 6 seed and the Lakers are the 7? Go ahead, Jay.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if their continuity forces you to switch a lot of action, so you end up with being in a matchup nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always happened to Sacramento.
Who does? Explain that to me. The Lakers are in a matchup.
Well, think about
Warriors.
it. So there are times Steph will come up a ball screen, come here, come back, come up a ball screen, come here, come on. Like, they move around so much. you have to communicate. You need to switch those actions. So you might end up with AD on Steph. You might end up with Rui Hachimura on Klay Thompson. And that's what they take advantage of. Like, so your ability to stay disciplined and stay at home is throw it out